Thank you all for being here today and for joining us for this sector focus on food and drink. We're going to do is, so I'm Jen, Somerset Chamber of Commerce, heading up anything to do with membership. What we're going to do is we're going to go around the room and just briefly introduce ourselves, who we are and the organisation that we're from, just really briefly, so just so that our speakers know who their audience is today, if that's okay. First and foremost, I'd really like to thank our sponsors today, PKF Francis Clark, and Steve Ashworth is here from PKF, and we'll be doing a 5-minute talk in a moment, and then we'll go on to our speaker, Sam Salway. So can I ask Sally to go first to introduce herself, and then we'll work our way around the room if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Hello, everybody. I'm Sally, and I am the Marketing and Events Coordinator for the Somerset Chamber of Commerce. So my job is very important to make sure I arrange some lovely online and physical events for all our lovely members to attend, such as this one.
Dave?
Hello, Dave Colshaw from Port Dodson. I work mainly with food and drink businesses. I'm a solicitor here doing commercial contract advice and buying and selling businesses, that side of things. Yeah.
Neil Morgan?
Hi all. Neil Morgan. I'm the Business and Relationship Manager at Bridgewater and Taunton College, covering our land-based area, which obviously includes food and drink. So I work with employers who are looking to advertise and take on apprentices within the sector, and obviously work with any learners who are looking to progress into work in the sector as well, and try and match everyone up.
Thank you. Rob?
Yeah, hi all. Rob Warnock-Smith, work for NatWest Commercial Bank. We cover the Somerset County, so supporting all sorts of businesses in the food and drink supply chain, you know, ag all the way through to retailers. Customer sizes are between sort of 2 million turnover up to 50 million. Good to see some familiar faces as well.
Thank you. Fahim? Welcome.
Everyone, it's Fahim. I'm founder and director of Mayfair Franchise. Mayfair Franchise provides services, setting up franchises for businesses, more involved in pre-franchising, so the strategy, financial modeling, operation manual writing, marketing plan, and so forth. We have few clients here in the UK, and I do a lot of work in the Middle East as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hattie?
Morning all, Hattie Winter. I'm Senior Economic Development Officer at Somerset West and Taunton Council, and one of my projects at the moment is around some mapping of food and drink producers across both our patch and also Sedgemoor. So I thought this would be a good forum to kind of come and see you guys, and it also introduce that bit of work really.
Oh, perfect. I have messaged John, but I don't know if he can hear us. John, can you hear us? So maybe he's in the background, I'm not too sure. So John is from Somerset Food and Drink. So hopefully he can hear us. We may not be able to see him, but hopefully he can hear us all the same. So roughly today we've got an hour planned for this call. We'll start with Steve, we'll head on to Sam after that, and then there'll be a question and answer session. So please do get your questions ready to quiz these guys on the sector and what's happening. Steve wears a couple of different hats, so I'm sure he'll be able to introduce those shortly. But without much further ado, I'd like to introduce Steve Ashworth from sponsors today, PKF Francis Clark. Steve, over to you.
That's all right. I was waiting for some slides to suddenly appear, but Sally's frantically working on them. But morning, everybody. Lovely to see everybody and see several faces that I know. I can do next slide, Sally, as well, so I can do my best.
1 second.
That's all right. It's all right.
Hopefully that's okay now.
Other one, Sally. The other slide.
1 second. Sorry, technical issues.
I'll just keep talking, but I'm here with my PKF Francis Clark hat on, and we are very pleased to sponsor this event, as we do sponsor a number of events in the food and drink sector, because it's one of our key sector areas that we help and support with. So for anyone who doesn't know, Francis Clark, our accountants, were based across the whole of the Southwest. We have 8 8 sort of offices, 8 proper offices, shall we say, and a 9th office, which is at Frome Independent Market, which our farming and agricultural team and everything set up over there. But eight main offices, and there's lots of information just on, well, some bits of information just about Francis Clark. We have a Taunton office, which is out at Blackbrook. We also have an office in Bristol and one in Exeter, plus the other sort of 5 offices across the whole of the Southwest. So we're firmly based in the Southwest. One of our largest sector groups that we deal with is food and drink, and that stretches from cafes, pubs, restaurants, all the way through the hospitality industry, all the way through with manufacturers, mentioned farmers as well. So you know, it's that sort of real farm to fork sort of area that we do work in, covering all areas of tax, so corporate tax, private tax. I specialise in employment tax. We have VAT specialists and everything. So if anybody does need to follow up afterwards or they want to contact me, my details are on there. Besides all of that, just on my food and drink sort of my other hats that Jen mentioned me actually wearing. I do a lot with food and drink outside of the day-to-day job. Some people actually say I do more with food and drink, filling in between with some of the other sort of accountancy work and everything that I do. But I'm a former Southwest Amateur Chef of the Year. Emphasis on amateur, especially we're having Sam on the call. I am purely an amateur, but I was fortunate enough to win that a few years ago. Also, Somerset Life Food and Drink winner a few years ago as an ambassador for that. And I do lots of judging for restaurants. In fact, I'm judging a restaurant tonight, which will be the first one for this year. I can't say where, but for Taste of the West. So I'm judging that out tonight. So I do lots. The main bit was for today was, after just those introductions, is I'm not going to go into any great detail on these because I only got 5 minutes and I'm probably exhausting that already. But it's just to headline some of the key trends and that we've picked up as being some of the issues and everything on there. And some of these could be broken down into more. I did some little subheadings for myself of topics, trends at the moment are consumers looking for flavors less traveled. Health is wealth, which is a move in people's diets and everything. The Greta effect on sustainability and the way we farm and the way we engage with food. The wow factor, which is, you know, we can't ignore the TikTok effect really, but that what TikTok is bringing, Instagram, social media, and how that's changing people's relationships with food and how they engage and how food is, you know, brought to people and everything these days. And one, you know, sort of Instagrammer can make or break in many ways as an influencer, you know, maybe your product, your restaurant or whatever. So they are a great sort of resource, and certainly it's going to be something which is seen more and more. And there's also a lot of celebrating British as well, a little bit of a return to nostalgia. Some of that is coming out of Brexit. Brexit has had a major impact on, you know, not only the supply chain, but also the labour shortages. And at the moment, I think we've got something, I think it's something like about 10% vacancy rates across the industry, 200,000 vacancies around, give or take the odd one, and it just seems to be growing and that. So, but there's also other areas, technology, and I think that's one area that a lot of businesses are embracing or need to embrace even more going forward through 2022. And this is all the information which can be collected through, you know, people's, how they sort of engage online with you, how they maybe sort of, you know, now there's a lot of apps there for people paying the bills, and there's a lot of information can be gathered through technology, and it's how does a business actually use that? And it's something I've had quite a lot of focus on towards the end of last year, and I've put a few people in contact with other people on. how you use that information and everything within GDPR, of course, but how you use that information to grow your business, or maybe create that even better experience for somebody who actually turns up. We do have, just very, very briefly, we do have issues around tax. We've got the plastic packaging tax coming in from the 1st of April this year, which will affect anyone who is, sort of any any plastics which are coming into the UK being imported or manufactured, unless it's got at least 30% recycled plastics and everything in there. So plastics, no doubt, are going to go up in price. We've got the return of the VAT back to 20% from the 1st of April. And we've also got national insurance increases, this 1.25%, which is going to go on from April for employers, employees, if you provide benefits to any of your employees as well. So there's quite a few increases and everything to come. And factor that around as well, some of the talk yesterday around the cost of living increases. Some people out there have got a lot of money to spend, which has been built up during the pandemic. But there's also a lot of people out there and a lot of customers who haven't got that money to spend at the moment. And that's probably a very whiz bang. We are producing a little sort of flyer later this month, just drilling down into all those key trends areas a little bit more. So I'll try and find a way to get that to Somerset Chamber and maybe out to you. It can be sent out to the database. That's probably it. Just very, very quickly, Jen.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you very much. Yeah, once that flies out, then do let us know. We can help circulate to this group, and actually we can actually throw it out via social as well to make sure others see it. So that'd be wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, right, the slides are up, so let's carry on, shall we? I'd like to welcome our guest speaker today, Sam Salway from Chef's Country Cuisine. Are you there? Can you hear us, Sam?
Good morning, everybody. Yes, I can hear you all.
Perfect. Over to you, Sam.
Well, that was great. It's very interesting points I've taken from Steve, and it kind of has some similarities to sort of my experience in the last 18 months of what COVID has brought. So very quickly, a little bit about me is I'm both English and French trained. I worked in France for 10 years, and in 8 years of that in Paris restaurants, before coming back to the UK and working with some of the top chefs around here. I then set up a food company, and my concept of being sort of delivering fine dining boxed meals, which would be slide 2, boxed meals directly to the door. So the picture on the left there is me, a young me, in a very small Paris kitchen when it all sort of started, really, and sort of taking that concept, bringing it back home. So COVID for me, the company sort of found its feet during the first lockdown. It was just busy because of all the sort of different restrictions, and people did not wanting to cook, not people wanting to go out, but it also had obviously a lot of effects on people, sort of mental health and various different things that comes with sort of being confined and in lockdown. So it kind of made my job very satisfying and fulfilling to be able to bring sort of, joy to people. If it was celebrating a birthday, I did a lot of people doing shared restaurants experiences where, I'd go around and deliver to sort of all far and field, and they would have a Zoom meeting and all get dressed up and have their meals of the evening, which was great fun. And the whole idea of, I've tried to be very sort of green with my approach, and the packaging was all sort of cardboard boxes, biodegradable, and that was sort of how I took the business forwards. But it was a very rocky road with all the different sort of restrictions. And as soon as the pubs and restaurants opened, it came to a point where the business almost came to a grinding halt. And I've got a day job, which I couldn't afford at the time to give up that day job, because the business, obviously, there was no sort of certainty or security of what direction we were going, with COVID sort of lurking in the background. And, restaurants opened, business almost came to a grinding halt overnight. And, I was then sort of put back in that situation of racking my brains of, what direction do I go next, and how do I keep things moving forwards? And so I went down sort of the private chef and private dining experiences, and sort of changed my website and got things, and trying to get my name back out there as sort of promoting this. And they started rolling again, and off we went. And then all of a sudden, government restrictions changed the rules of rule of 6, and that then brought a grinding halt to that, and I had to sort of start refunding everybody. So it was always a bit of a tricky road. And something I've learned from this whole experience, and I've always been a big advocate for supporting local businesses. I think, if one of us is doing well, then we champion the success. And if one of us is struggling, I think it's important to sort of step up our efforts and support people the way we can. And it might not just be food related. It might be an independent singing teacher or an independent dance teacher, or, the small independent businesses that have sort of, a lot of them have suffered a lot through this period. And I think it's brought back quite a bit the communities, and sort of awareness of, of these small people, where they've sort of had to fight and work together or found each other. And I think, technology is a big thing now. And, like Steve saying, the sort of TikTok and the Instagram, and the sort of pace in which it moves can be quite fast sometimes. And I think sort of COVID has given us a chance to sort of slow things down a bit and sort of open our eyes and see actually what's a little bit more around us, or people or small businesses that have been, desperately trying to, get themselves out there, have had a bit of a chance to do so and get recognition. So yeah, that's my sort of, importance of local businesses, really, I think is a big thing for me. And yeah, so then it leads to sort of where I'm at now, really. And so that rocky road has led me to meeting up with Charlie. Now, Charlie is in the picture at the top. She's sort of a friend of a family friend for many years, and she's got another catering company who unfortunately was forced to stop all activity during COVID, and it sort of hit her quite hard. And we were sort of planning in between, sort of knowing the restrictions are going to be lifted, and what can we do to sort of keep the ball moving and keep things rolling, really, with a lot of uncertainty as to what was going to happen next. And so we sort of started as soon as we could, and the restrictions were lifted, sort of collaborating, doing sort of private dining and different small events and things like that. And it's just grown into quite a good relationship. So last year we've taken on a lot of small events. I think the change of people wanting to stay at home, people's uncertainty of going out, the hospitality sector being hit quite hard, and it's taken quite a bit of time to recover. I think the initial people wanting to go out, but a lot of people also being scared to go out. We've seen a big increase in people becoming the trend of staying at home and entertaining at home, and having a chef like ourselves coming in to cook for them. And it's been, and this year we've got quite a few weddings booked. I think this year is going to be the year of weddings, due to so many postponed and cancellations last year. So it's going to be quite interesting to see where things go from here. And I think, the hospitality sector has been hit really, really hard. I don't think the government really understand how hard the hospitality sector has been hit. Shortage of staff. I think chefs that have been working, that have been furloughed and gravitated towards businesses that have been thriving throughout COVID, and thought, oh, actually I quite like this and don't necessarily want to come back. But then equally there's quite a lot of support to encourage new people to come into the hospitality sector, and that's encouraging. And I think businesses are forced to sort of ramp up, changing their approach on the split shifts, doing 4 days on, 3 days off, or 3 days on, 4 days off, and sort of mixing it up a bit to sort of not have that sort of perseverance of it being long blood, sweat and tears hours and an antisocial lifestyle has been working in hospitality. And the same thing now, as Steve pointed out about, there's been an increase in national insurance, an increase in VAT, product supplies is increasing, and I understand from packaging that this is something else, which is there's just many things in the factor that are contributing to sort of increase in prices, and inevitably all food prices are having to go up, which sometimes can make dining out quite expensive. So it's still, I think, from my experience, it's still going to be quite a journey for quite a few businesses. And it's quite sad to see a lot of sort of small local businesses struggling, businesses that are being put out of business or have been forced to close. And I'm hoping that, this will change a little bit, the sort of local communities and things coming together and giving a bit more oomph and support, and seeing a sort of local village pub doing well. And it's nice to see that people are still keen to give it a go. So that's pretty much where I'm at, really.
Thank you very much, Sam. It's really appreciated. And as Hattie's been mentioning, great pictures, by the way. If you haven't had breakfast or you do a mid-morning snack, you're definitely hungry for it now. Okay, perhaps Sally, we can remove the slides. That's okay.
Yep, that's fine.
Perfect. And then questions and answers. So feel free to unmute yourself, everybody. And then once the Sally's screen's kind of disappeared,
sorry. Yeah, apologies.
Excellent. Does anybody have any questions for Steve or Sam, or actually anybody else in the room? Yes.
I've got
Hattie?
a question.
Oh, can we? We're going to start with Hattie because I started, and then we'll come on to you, Rob. That's okay. Hattie, you're muted. Oh, and you're frozen. Amazing.
Her hand is still
Amazing.
up, yeah.
That's amazing. Was it Rob? Did you have a question?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, it's one for Sam. Sam, thanks for that. I suppose running a business can be quite lonely at the best of times, and it sounds like you've had to sort of adapt and pivot quite a bit over the last 18 months or so. I'm interested to understand what sort of means of sort of external support you lean to. If you've got that sort of network there to tap into to help you shape decisions and things.
Well, that was the sort of thing. A lot of it was sort of finding my own feet, really. And I was sort of, because originally I set my company up in Nottingham and I brought it back just before lockdown. It'd been the Christmas before lockdown. And I was sort of left in a situation of where do I go next? And I took on a day job doing something completely different, which was doing carpentry. And then, of course, lockdown came and I was, restaurants and pubs closing. I was sort of in a fortunate situation where my company was set up based around doing ready meals. So I had all the structure in place to sort of to get the ball rolling on it. But it just took multitasking, and all the pictures I've pretty much done myself. It's learning how to sort of try and promote yourself, try and get familiar with Instagram and Facebook, which is not sort of my strongest points. I was very much in a situation where I was forced to sort of try and trial and error a little bit. And then it's obviously all the accounting side of things and all the admin side of things. It just didn't stop. And I luckily had the support network of family who all pitched in and helped. And I wasn't really kind of expecting it to take off like it did during the first lockdown. The second lockdown, obviously, a lot more people were offering the option to take away meals. So that put there was a lot more on the market, and everyone had sort of had time to adjust and to adapt. And get familiar with this concept, and we're able to offer very similar things to what I was doing. But it was just a massive learning curve, and it was a lot of having to think on my feet. And so yes, and on this whole journey now, I've been fortunate to meet a lot of people that have given me a lot of guidance and support, and help keep my feet on the ground and point me in the right direction. But it's been quite a journey.
I would just add to you there, Sam, and we've spoken before and everything. The support network, food and drink, I find, Sam might not always agree, and I might not actually always agree with what I'm about to say, but the food and drink sector is very supportive of each other once it's actually set up, more than any other industry I know. But if you bring a number of people from hospitality together, or be it restaurants, hotels, or whatever, they will all talk to each other. Whereas if you bring a load of engineers or something together, no disrespect to any, they'll all stay in their own little corners, and it's very rare, but sometimes they'll mix and exchange ideas and information. But But a lot of the networks are very, very strong. The only issue we sometimes have across Somerset is actually just keeping that connectivity going, certainly from east to west. But you know, we know from our very own county, it's a long way from Minehead across to Frome, and there are a lot of people in between. So to try and keep those support networks, be it social media or be it networking, and all the issues which have come out obviously over the last 2 years or more, and you know, not being able to get out and about, it can be a lonely place. But there are those networks and everything there to learn and explain, and those who have been through it are often willing to help others in the industry. I don't know if Sam finds that, or that's true.
Yeah, I found that a lot, is that the hospitality does have a very close network. And it's just, I think because of being out of the picture a little bit and then coming back, it was a question of, you know, you're having to work double hard to sort of reconnect with people, and it was in through a very difficult time for a lot of people. But I had times when I've had chefs jump in and they were just, you know, they had cabin fever a little bit, but they were also keen to help me and see me, you know, when I've got to a bit of wit's end, they were keen to jump in and help me, and that's done great for relationships too. And it's just that perseverance, and like you're saying, keeping in contact with people. And it's now been great. It's given me the ball sort of rolling, really, to get out and start chatting to people. I've been helping the Lateral Arms a little bit. As you know, their chefs left, and there's a big demand for chefs, and so sort of a bit in between ducking and diving, and it's nice actually to give back and experience it, and hear it from other people's perspectives as well, and realize that everybody's in the same boat. And that for me is the importance of going back to it, if realizing the importance of supporting each other, and you know, if you can just do something, even if however small it may be, it's important that everybody pulls together and rides through it. It just helps make the sector stronger, really.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Hattie, did you have a question?
Thank you, I'm back. Sorry, I froze just at the wrong time, didn't I? That was really interesting. Thanks, both. It's just a few points rather than a question. It's just to say that I'm on a secondment to the LEP at the moment and doing a different piece of work. And a piece of sort of a quick task force we pulled together was around labour shortages. So it's just to say, rest assured, we do keep banging on our civil servant doors, telling them the issues, and actually just explaining that the issues we face down here in the Southwest is very different from perhaps the rest of the country, and it shouldn't all be seen as the same thing. So each week, and I think even on Tuesday, that message was again reiterated to government colleagues. So it is trying to put up the line. And just to say, we've got community employment hubs who work very closely with our partners in the sector, and also with DWP, and there are quite a number of sector-based work academies that are going on. I don't know if any of you know about them, but one I definitely know has been around hospitality, so that's trying to give people a bit of a taster about coming into the industry. So again, we're trying to bring people into the sector and show them the benefits of being there. And then another thing I mentioned about the food and drink mapping work that we were doing at the council and with Sedgemoor, and it was just to say, out of that, kind of one of the recommendations is around creating some kind of network for the businesses. Now, I don't know, if that's welcomed. I don't know if it's something that it just happens anyway and is a bit informal, and whether anything formal would be welcomed or not particularly. And it was just to see, is there still a food and drink network, Neil, at the college? Because I know that Bridgewater and Taunton used to have a food and drink networking event. And obviously we will talk with our counties at county colleagues. We've done quite a lot of work around cluster development, and I know that they had something around food and drink. So it's just trying to talk with them to try and build this, but we want to be able to build it in a way that's useful to the business, not just what we think is needed.
Thank you, Hattie. Neil, I know you got a bit of background noise. Go on, try and talk to us, and we'll try and work through the background noise, but I think we'd probably all like to know a little bit about the Food and Drink Forum.
Yeah, sorry, we do have, I've just typed it into the chat there, so I do have a bit of background, most of it in the office, but we do have a Food and Drink Forum, and we're looking to introduce that again in the coming weeks, have another session. But the idea for that is just to bring, as everyone's saying, to just bring people together, just talk about you know, how we can improve the recruitment side. Obviously, that's where we try and help as well, but also just ideas about improving the sector as a whole. We usually do each time introduce a speaker, and that speaker is usually brought in from the previous forum about a subject that everybody wants to kind of touch upon. So anybody in this group, if you'd like to come along to the forum and be involved, then do let me know, and I'll put you guys on the invite.
Good. Can I ask, is everyone happy to be added to that invite list?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got nodding. Brilliant. Are you all happy when Sally sends out her email afterwards for all contact details to be shown within the email, so not blind copied? Brilliant. If you're not, can you just drop either Sally or I an email privately, and then Neil, feel free, anybody that is displaying, to add to that list. So I think we're all quite interested in knowing how we can support that food and drink sector. Does anybody else have a question?
I've not got a question, more of an observation, really, Sam. Firstly, I apologise for turning up a little bit late and missing the majority of your presentation, but what I saw was excellent, as is your website. I just had a look at it, and it's very clear and concise, but mouthwatering as well. So
it hasn't been updated for a little bit. It's another one of those jobs on the list that,
yeah,
technology aren't too good best of friends at times. I'm more of a creative and hands-on person, but I keep putting it off and leaving it to another day.
I know the feeling. But and also as a business proposition, it seems it's unusual, isn't it? And are you starting to see other people copying what you're doing? Is there more competition coming into the market?
Yes, there is a lot of people that are doing what I'm doing. I think they're sort of seeing the alternatives of people dining at home. It's just keeping the consistency of it going. I mean, I still have my day job, and I haven't yet given that day job up. I've weaned back my hours in order to push forwards more. So the business is growing quite organically. And yes, it's just sometimes where to go next. And I just think I've also got to keep doing what I'm doing, and producing what I produce, really. And eventually, and networking and speaking to as many people as I can. And you know, when I need help, asking for help, and see how it all rolls, really.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And where are you based?
I'm based. We're having a kitchen that's actually currently under development, which should be finished middle of next month, which should be in Stigumber. So that will be sort of our main base prep kitchen, and then it'll be just a question of growth from there, really. So we've got to that stage now where, yes, we're pretty much will be kitted out completely. And Charlie's side of things, she's going to have a small cafe there, which I'll sort of help her and oversee it, but I won't have too much involvement in. And that would just allow me to keep my day job, which is quite nice to do something a bit different too sometimes, have a bit of variety. But our main base as a prep kitchen for any events that we have coming up, so weddings and things, and small independent events, which is good. I just like good quality food, and I like to cook what I like to cook. And sometimes, you know, it's with the sort of demands of the busy kitchen every day, day in, day out, it can come a bit mundane, like it can in any job. And so, you know, it's quite nice to have that sort of variety a little bit. And each event is different, and it's quite unique and being bespoke to people. And I'm just seeing a big trend in it. I'm seeing it's becoming more and more popular.
Thank you, Sam. Anybody else got a question at all? Sally, did you have? Oh, Dave, you are muted.
Yeah. Hi. I was just interested, really. You've obviously done huge amounts of different things over the last 2 years, Sam. Are you bothering with business planning at all? How can you have a plan when things are changing so much? And similarly to Steve, how are you advising clients on looking forward when everything's changing so quickly?
Go on, Sam, you go first.
Wow, that's an interesting one. I had a plan at the start of lockdown, and I thought, great. And it very quickly got scrapped. And then I put another plan in place, and again, it very quickly got scrapped with the tossing and turning of government changes. And then I started just winging it. And actually, I found winging it sometimes was good and sometimes was bad. And now I've got to a point where actually I have to start putting some planning back into it. And I've overall had an objective and goal as to where I want to be. And I think I'm nearly there. I sort of tick that box of it's sort of having our premises where it's sort of being safe, really. And that's step one. And now I've got sort of a bit of tweaking to do. And yeah, step two of where I want to go. So yeah, now I'm starting to plan. Obviously, there's a lot of things to always keep taking into consideration. But I think we're on a post now as to where we've got a little bit more certainty as to where in direction of where we're going, and restrictions we're coming out of restrictions. I think things are starting to flow a little bit more fluidly, so we should hopefully be on the right path to being able to move forwards.
I'd just add to that, Dave. It's a very, I'll start by saying that immortal line. That's a very good question, Dave. Carefully might be one word. I think what it comes down to is, as we know, it's been for the sector, it's been, shall we say, a very turbulent couple of years. And as quickly as one business strategy is put in place, another one has been needed. And I think what it comes down to is knowing your clients from our point of view, and really knowing and understanding their business, and knowing and being aware that once something changes or something hits, that you've got that option to speak to them very, very quickly. You've got to quickly adapt, and that's us as accountants as well as the businesses, and the hospitality sector has been fantastic at all levels, whether you're a manufacturing there or proper, well in with the hospitality, hotel, restaurant, whatever it happens to be. They have adapted, and I think we've done well. We've lost a lot of businesses, but I think it's also been shown that businesses are resilient, and the way they quickly change. So it's, from our point of view, it is really knowing your client well and being there for them when they actually need that support and help, and being able to provide options to change, because it is, we've just changed again, haven't we, from yesterday to today, and again slight change again from next Thursday. So it's all guns blazing. We're back to how things were, but we know we're not, because you don't know what implications that's going to have in the short to medium term, never mind the long term at the moment. So I think it's just key that businesses, they're more aware now that they can't go back to the way they ran their businesses and plan their businesses. It's got to be done differently going forward.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Dave?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It does answer my question. Interesting what Sam was saying as well about sort of looking at big picture objectives, rather than, I guess, getting down into the granular of how we're going to achieve these things. This is what we're trying to achieve. So yeah, no, it's a good shout.
Thank you. Any other questions at all? Sally?
I've got one question. Sam, what career path would you have taken if it wasn't within the food and drink industry?
Very interesting question. I definitely work with wood, which is something I'm kind of doing on a part-time basis now anyway. It's just the creativity side, full stop. And I think it has been a tough time for the hospitality section. And I've sort of taken that decision to sort of persevere a little bit as well, of doing something I enjoy alongside catering. And I hope that maybe in 2 or 3, 4 years time, I'll have a sort of another skill set to go alongside it. At the moment, it's kind of a small hobby that I'm developing and persevering in. But I'm passionate for cooking, and I'm passionate for food. So that's where my passion always lies. So yeah, carpentry would be the answer to that question.
Thank you very much.
I thought you were going to ask me as well, Sally, because mine wouldn't be accountancy.
Well, Steve, what would you choose? What career path?
Funny enough, it would be a food and drink business, which is I love my world of tax and accountancy, sad as that is, but I am truly passionate about food and drink. So it would be in that world. I grew up in in sort of my parents having retail food businesses and everything. So born in a fish and chip shop, as I tell people, but not literally, but that's what they had at the time. So yeah, I mean, it would be something in food and drink would be, even with everything that's gone on, would still be my sector of choice.
You know, maybe the retirement plan, eh, Steve?
Yeah. That's coming round far too quickly, but yeah.
Patty?
I was just going to ask, Sam, how do you feel as a business you can be better supported moving forward?
Interesting question. How can I be better supported? I think the support network's there, to be honest with you. Yeah. I think the support networks come along in leaps and bounds too. I mean, especially with what we've experienced over the last 18 months. It's a difficult one, really, on how to be supported. I'm keen to sort of see. I'm keen to sort of see from a training perspective, sort of people having a bit more knowledge on food, but I think that's growing anyway. And I think all the training facilities are increased as well and growing with it. I think there's a lot of structure that's already in place, and the encouragement for younger generations to come into the hospitality. Support for me as a business, I don't know really. I mean, sometimes you've got to grow with it, haven't you, really? And it's learning to turn to the support when you need it. And ask for the support and turn to the support, and it's been a big eye opener. I think there is a lot of support out there. So
maybe is it about promotion of where to go should you need it? And yeah, sometimes. Do you know about things like the Growth Hub? Are you aware of the Growth Hub, which is kind of a support thing across the heart of the Southwest, which is Plymouth, Devon, Somerset, and
I've heard of it. It's just sometimes time, isn't it? Really, that's what I battle.
Yeah. So they've got a program at the moment called Thrive, where each business is allowed to have up to 12 hours of one-to-one tailored support. So it would be all about you. So it's just about you. So that might be worth looking into. So I'm just going to hang up. Somebody's trying to call me. And there's a few other things. So maybe for the sector, that could be something we could help as a local authority to pull all that support together in one place. But if you think of anything else, we'd be really interested, because on the back of...
I've certainly taken some notes from today, and it's a lot to. I've certainly taken some notes away to have a think on some certain points, and definitely we'll be coming back to you.
So it's a bit of an on-the-spot question, wasn't it? Yeah, come back to me if you think of stuff that we can implement or help to influence.
Yeah, I mean, I would add, Hattie, it's from my sort of outside experience, of what Sam has said is typical of of the food and drink sector. It's also typical of lots of sectors that yes, they know somewhere there will be some help and some support, but knowing where that help and support actually is what is becoming the challenge. And it's signposting, and you don't know what's out there, if you don't know, basically. So it's having some clear signposting. I think the more you can do from the council's perspective to do that and to support as well would be great. I know Somerset Chamber already does a great amount, and the college does. I think the college is, I'm sure Neil will say it's not been forgotten about, but sometimes I feel that it's forgotten about. I think we've got an amazing resource in Taunton at the college, and the catering side of it there. It produces some great students and gets them interested in it. It was good to see, I think 48 people, I couldn't make it myself, went down to a meal last night, but sometimes people don't know what the college is doing. And I think it's one of the best valued restaurants in the whole of Somerset to go. And that's not just because Neil was on here, but I think the likes of Becky Tomlinson and everything all do that. And those are all places that can be used. And we talk about chefs and restaurants, and they are so good at giving back. I mean, you had Dan Moon there last night. Des Turland came up as the chefs to give their time to the college, to teach the students during the day and put a dinner and everything on last night. So there's lots going on, and there's lots of resources and help that can be found. But sometimes it's for Sam, I met up with a restaurant the other week, locally based as well, and you know, they haven't got the time. They haven't got the time between normal hours or even beyond that to actually go out and find what they need to tap into it, and that's where they really struggle sometimes.
Yeah, great, cool, thanks.
Thank you. Very aware that we now live in a world of Zooming, and I imagine many of you have an 11 o'clock which you have to be on immediately. There are a few areas I know we haven't touched on today, which could be a discussion themselves, you know, how to get youngsters interested in the sector, get people back on back into the world of hospitality, how businesses can utilize in the hospitality industry, utilize technology. That could be an hour in itself, having that discussion. Perhaps that's something for a future food and drink, or perhaps, you know, Neil and Hattie, we can get together and actually figure out how we can incorporate that in an additional discussion. But really appreciate the chat that has been had today. I think there's been some really good sharing, really good discussion. Thank you so much to Sam, and of course to Steve, our sponsors at PKF, Francis Clark, today. Without your support, well, we couldn't have done this without your support, so thank you. So that Sally doesn't have a go at me, I need to mention a couple of events before we go. We have the Somerset Breakfast with the Somerset County Council, which is taking place the 25th, which is next week. Sally has promised me is going to keep registration for that open until 3 o'clock today. We've got about 58, 59 booked onto that one. People are really keen to get back out and network, so do come along if you can. And then the other one I wanted to mention would be the Business Benefits of Carbon Neutrality, which is taking place on the 9th of February. Once again, really popular event. So if you're interested in coming out physically networking, it'd be wonderful to see you there. All the event information is on our website, and I'm sure Sally will be sending something out post-event. So if everyone's happy, we'll call it a day there, unless someone has a burning question. No, perfect. And Sally will send around an email afterwards with all email addresses showing, so that Neil, you can send out information about the food and drink form, if that's okay. Cool. Thank you ever so much, everyone, today, and yes, see you all again soon. Thank you.
Good to see everyone. Have a good day, everyone. Cheers,
Thanks, everyone.
everyone.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Bye.